Virtual worlds today have become an integral part of modern teenagers' lives. Over the past decade, the number of young gamers has doubled, and the average time spent in online games has reached 14 hours a week. Digital reality is gradually displacing traditional forms of leisure. According to recent studies, over 70% of teenagers regularly play video games, and 1 in 5 admits to experiencing difficulties with self-control over gaming time. The world is changing before our eyes. Backyard games are giving way to virtual battles, and real friends are often replaced by online allies. What lies behind this transformation? Why have digital worlds become so attractive to the younger generation? What mechanisms do game developers use to hold teenagers' attention? And where does the fine line lie between a hobby and an addiction capable of destroying real life? Why are virtual worlds so attractive to teenagers? This question worries many parents who observe their children immersing themselves in digital reality for hours. The answer lies in the peculiarities of adolescent psychology and the skill of developers who create perfect traps for young minds. Modern games are not just entertainment, but an entire system of rewards, achievements, and social interactions. Every action of the player receives instant feedback: points, levels, virtual currency, rare items. What a teenager might wait years for in real life happens here in a matter of hours. The brain receives constant doses of dopamine, the pleasure hormone, forming a stable connection between the game and the feeling of happiness. Adolescence is a time of self-discovery, of finding one's place in the world. In games, this need is met through avatars that can be customized, developed, made stronger and more successful. An insecure schoolchild becomes a hero saving worlds. A shy teenager turns into a guild leader with hundreds of followers. Virtual worlds offer what is often lacking in reality: control, significance, recognition. The social component plays a key role in the formation of addiction. Multiplayer games create the illusion of constant presence of friends. Shared goals, teamwork, in-game chats, all this forms a sense of belonging to a community. Missing a game session means letting down the team, staying out of shared experiences, falling out of the information field. The fear of missing out on something important becomes a powerful incentive to constantly be online. Just a few decades ago, the world of children's leisure looked completely different. Yards filled with the voices of playing children, and teenagers spent hours chasing a ball or gathering in groups on benches. Today, these scenes are becoming increasingly rare. Quiet yards and empty playgrounds are a new reality where the physical space of play shrinks, giving way to the virtual. This transformation didn't start yesterday. The gradual shift from active outdoor entertainment to home leisure began back in the 80s with the advent of the first game consoles. But the real turning point occurred with the mass spread of the internet and smartphones. Traditional games, passed down from generation to generation, lost their appeal in the face of bright, constantly updated digital worlds. Sociologists note several key factors in this shift. Urbanization has led to a reduction in safe spaces for children's games. Parents, concerned about safety, increasingly prefer their children to be at home, under supervision. Gadgets are becoming more accessible. Today, 9 out of 10 teenagers own a smartphone. At the same time, virtual entertainment does not require special conditions. You can play anywhere, anytime, regardless of the weather and the availability of other participants. But it would be a mistake to consider the digital transformation of leisure as an exclusively negative phenomenon. Virtual communities form new types of social interactions that have their unique characteristics. In online games, teenagers learn to work in a team, make strategic decisions, and allocate resources. International servers allow communication with peers from different countries, overcoming language and cultural barriers. For many introverted teenagers, gaming platforms become their first experience of socialization, where they can build relationships at a comfortable pace. Studies show that moderate participation in multiplayer games can positively affect the development of communication skills and emotional intelligence. Where does the line lie between a healthy hobby and a life-destroying addiction? This question becomes increasingly relevant in an era when virtual worlds are becoming a second reality for millions of teenagers. In 2018, the World Health Organization officially included gaming disorder in the International Classification of Diseases. According to this definition, addiction can be spoken of when gaming begins to dominate other life interests and daily activities, and attempts to reduce gaming time lead to significant discomfort and continue despite negative consequences. It is important to understand that the hours spent gaming themselves are not the decisive criterion. The key is how gaming affects other areas of a teenager's life. Psychologists identify several clear signs of crossing the dangerous line. The first is loss of control over time. Promises to play for 5 more minutes regularly turn into multi-hour sessions. The second is withdrawal syndrome, when the inability to play causes irritability, anxiety, and aggression. The third is escalation, when more and more time in the game is required to achieve the same level of pleasure. The fourth is continuing to play despite obvious problems in studies, relationships, and health. The fifth is using gaming as a way to escape problems and negative emotions. The scale of the problem is impressive. Studies show that 3 to 8% of teenagers meet the criteria for gaming addiction, while another 15% are at risk. Adolescent boys aged 13 to 16 are particularly vulnerable. Among them, the rates are almost twice as high as among girls. This is associated with gender differences in preferences. Boys more often choose competitive multiplayer games, which have a higher potential for addiction formation. Cultural differences also play a role. In East Asian countries, where computer games are deeply integrated into youth culture, the level of addiction reaches 10 to 12%. How to recognize that a teenager has crossed the line between a hobby and an addiction? Specialists identify a whole complex of symptoms manifesting at different levels. Behavioral markers are usually the first to be noticed. The teenager begins to neglect personal hygiene, skips meals, or eats directly at the computer. Sleep becomes irregular. The child may play until late at night and then struggle to wake up for school. A characteristic sign is a sharp defensive reaction to any attempts to limit screen time. Psychologist Maria Kravtsova describes the case of 14-year-old Kirill. When his parents tried to set time limits, the boy smashed the tablet against the wall and then refused to talk to his family for 2 days. In academics, addiction manifests through declining grades, missed classes, and uncompleted homework. Teachers note that such teenagers often look tired, distracted, and struggle to concentrate in lessons. During breaks, they usually only discuss game achievements or check game news on their smartphones. A particularly alarming symptom is social isolation. Real friends are gradually replaced by virtual teammates in games. The teenager refuses family activities, stops attending clubs and sections, and avoids live communication. At the same time, their emotional state becomes unstable. Periods of euphoria during gaming are replaced by irritability and apathy in the real world. Physiological manifestations should also not be ignored. Headaches, vision problems, back and wrist pain, sleep disturbances. Many addicted teenagers experience the so-called phantom notification syndrome. They feel as if they hear sounds from the game even when away from the computer. It is important to understand that different psychotypes of teenagers exhibit addiction differently. Introverts often use games as a substitute for social contacts, which they find difficult. For extroverts, team games with active communication are more appealing. Educator-psychologist Alexei Morozov gives an example. Quiet, withdrawn Anya became a popular streamer, broadcasting multi-hour gameplay sessions. In the virtual world, she found a voice that she lacked in reality. What happens in a teenager's brain when they immerse themselves in the virtual world? The neurobiology of gaming addiction reveals surprising mechanisms that transform simple entertainment into a genuine need. At the heart of this process is the reward system, an ancient mechanism, evolutionarily formed to encourage actions that contribute to the survival of the species. When a player achieves success, defeats a boss, obtains a rare item, or levels up their character, their brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of pleasure and motivation. This same neurochemical process underlies other types of addictions, from nicotine to gambling. However, in adolescence, the reward system functions with particular intensity. Their brain is in a critical phase of development, when neural connections are formed and solidified at an incredible rate. A teenager's dopamine receptors are much more sensitive than an adult's, and the prefrontal cortex, responsible for self-control, is not yet fully developed. This creates ideal conditions for the formation of stable neural patterns associated with gameplay. Game developers are well aware of these features and skillfully use the principle of variable reinforcement, the most effective method for forming addiction. When rewards do not come every time but randomly, the brain produces even more dopamine in anticipation of a potential reward. This is why loot boxes with random items, unpredictable drops of rare things, and other elements of randomness are so common in modern games. Prolonged immersion in virtual reality leads to real structural changes in the brain. Studies using functional magnetic resonance imaging show that gamers with signs of addiction exhibit a reduction in gray matter in areas responsible for decision-making and emotional control. At the same time, activity in areas associated with the reward system, on the contrary, increases. A vicious circle arises. The more a teenager plays, the more their brain changes, and the harder it becomes for them to stop. Virtual worlds beckon with vibrant colors, yet conceal dangers rarely spoken aloud. The long-term consequences of excessive immersion in online games affect all spheres of a teenager's life. Physical health suffers first. Posture disorders, computer vision syndrome, carpal tunnel syndrome are just the tip of the iceberg. Studies show that teenagers who spend more than 4 hours a day gaming are 3 times more likely to suffer from overweight and metabolic disorders due to a sedentary lifestyle and irregular eating habits. But even more dangerous is social isolation, which occurs gradually, almost imperceptibly. Virtual friends displace real ones, and live communication skills atrophy. Psychologist Dmitry Leontiev notes, "A teenager might have hundreds of contacts in a game, but be unable to hold a simple conversation with a classmate. An illusion of social competence forms, despite its actual absence." The sphere of identity formation is particularly vulnerable. Adolescence is a key period of self-determination, when young people explore various social roles and search for themselves. Excessive immersion in virtual images can lead to the blurring of boundaries between the gaming and real personality. 17-year-old Artyom admits, "Sometimes I feel more confident being my game character than myself. In real life, I don't know who I am." Emotional intelligence and empathy are another area suffering from gaming addiction. In virtual worlds, emotional reactions are simplified, schematic, and devoid of nuances. teenagers become accustomed to a black-and-white perception: friend, foe, victory, defeat. The ability to read non-verbal cues and understand the complex emotional states of others significantly decreases. The issue of the influence of gaming violence deserves separate attention. Discussions about this have not subsided for decades. Modern research shows that there is no direct causal link between violent games and real aggression. But there is a desensitization effect, a reduction in sensitivity to violence and suffering. Teenagers who regularly play violent games demonstrate less empathy towards victims of violence and more often choose aggressive strategies for conflict resolution. Digital hygiene is not just a trendy phrase, but a necessary set of habits for healthy interaction with the virtual world. Just as we teach children to wash their hands before eating, modern teenagers need to learn the rules of safe existence in digital space. The foundation of preventing gaming addiction is a conscious attitude towards the time spent playing games. Specific time limits should be set individually, taking into account age and other responsibilities. But the general rule is, games should not displace sleep, studies, live communication, and physical activity. An effective approach is a system of gaming sessions with clear boundaries. Instead of a vague, "I'll play a little," a specific, "I'll play from 6 to 7 in the evening," is much more useful. Psychologists recommend using timers and alarms, and the teenager should set them themselves. This develops self-control and responsibility. It is also important to take breaks every 30 to 40 minutes. Stand up, stretch, look into the distance, drink water. Physical activity is a powerful antidote against digital addiction. A brain that has received enough movement needs less dopamine surges from games. The ideal option is team sports, which simultaneously provide both physical activity and social interaction. Gadget usage rules are another cornerstone of digital hygiene. The key rule: no devices an hour before bed and in the first hour after waking up. This protects natural sleep cycles and helps the brain prepare for a productive day. The bedroom should remain a territory free of electronics. Self-control for teenagers begins with awareness. It is useful to keep a gaming time diary, noting not only the hours, but also the emotional state before and after playing. This helps to see patterns, when playing becomes a way to escape problems, and when it is healthy recreation. Parental monitoring is effective only in an atmosphere of trust and respect. Instead of total control and prohibitions, psychologists recommend open dialogue and joint exploration of games. By showing genuine interest in the child's hobby, parents get the opportunity to subtly guide them, discuss the values and meanings of virtual worlds. Family media rules work better when they apply to all family members, including adults. A personal example of conscious technology use speaks louder than any words. In the digital age, the fight against gaming addiction has taken on a new dimension. Technological solutions designed to control what technology itself has spawned. Modern operating systems and platforms offer built-in tools to help track and limit time spent in virtual worlds. Windows, macOS, iOS, and Android already include parental control features with the ability to set time limits for specific applications and games. Many parents note the effectiveness of simple solutions like Screen Time on Apple devices or Family Link for Android. These applications not only allow limiting access to games during certain hours, but also provide weekly reports on a child's digital habits. Gaming platforms themselves are also implementing self-limitation mechanisms. Steam, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live offer features for tracking game time and setting break reminders. Some games, recognizing their potential to foster addiction, incorporate systems that encourage healthy gaming sessions. For example, the popular teen game Honor of Kings in China limits minors' playtime to 1 to 2 hours a day and blocks access after 9 in the evening. For particularly challenging cases, specialized applications like Cold Turkey, Freedom, or Forest exist, blocking access to certain websites and programs for a set time. Their unique feature is that bypassing the set restrictions is extremely difficult. One has to restart the device or perform complex technical manipulations, which provides time to reconsider and interrupt the impulsive desire to return to the game. However, technological solutions have their limitations. Tech-savvy teenagers often find ways to bypass blocks by creating additional accounts or using VPN services. Moreover, strict restrictions without explaining their meaning can cause an opposite reaction, an increased desire to play, and an undermining of trust between parents and children. The most effective approach is to combine technological tools with open dialogue. The Andreev family found an optimal solution. Together with their 14-year-old son, they installed the Forest app, which turns digital hygiene into a game. A virtual tree grows on the screen during time away from the device, and if the rules are broken, it dies. After a month of this practice, the teenager himself began to track his gaming time, and real-life walks started bringing no less pleasure than virtual adventures. To forbid or to allow? This question torments many parents facing a teenager's gaming addiction. However, experience shows that categorical prohibitions rarely work and often lead to the opposite result: withdrawal into hidden gaming activity and the destruction of trust. An effective approach lies in guidance, not prohibition. It's worth starting with building an open dialogue. Instead of accusations like, "All you do is play," it's more productive to ask questions such as, such conversations not only help understand the child's hobby, but also show that you respect their interests. Psychologist Elena Makarova recommends the 15 minutes of attention technique, dedicating time daily to jointly discuss the game, allowing the teenager to be the expert. Setting rules works better when they are created together. A family council where time limits, access conditions to games, and the balance between virtual and real activity are discussed gives the teenager a sense of participation in decision-making. It's important that the rules are specific, achievable, and consistent. Parents' personal example is crucial. It's difficult to expect digital discipline from a teenager if adults themselves are constantly immersed in smartphones. Joint time without gadgets for the whole family can become an effective practice. One of the most effective strategies is offering engaging alternatives. Sports, creativity, travel, volunteering. The real world should compete with the virtual one in terms of brightness and significance of experience. At the same time, it's important not to impose activities, but to help the teenager find what truly resonates with their interests. Joint gaming activity is an unexpected but effective tool. A parent who shows genuine interest in their child's game gains a unique opportunity to understand its mechanics, appeal, and potential risks. Moreover, such sessions become a platform for natural discussion of values, ethical dilemmas, and strategies presented in the game. When the virtual world becomes so engrossing that a teenager cannot independently return to reality, professional help is required. Modern psychotherapy offers effective methods for treating gaming addiction, specifically adapted for the younger generation. Cognitive behavioral therapy holds a leading position in the treatment of this disorder. It helps teenagers recognize destructive thought patterns that trigger compulsive gaming behavior and replace them with healthier ones. The therapist works with key beliefs. I am only valuable when I win in the game. The real world is too difficult and unpleasant. Only in the game do I feel competent. Psychologist Anna Severnaya notes, "We help the teenagers see how gaming has become a way to avoid unpleasant emotions and teach alternative strategies for coping with anxiety and stress." Family therapy is essential, as gaming addiction rarely exists in a vacuum. Often, it reflects deeper family dysfunctions, conflicts between parents, lack of emotional support, excessive control, or, conversely, neglect. The therapist works with the entire family, helping to restore healthy communication and create a supportive environment for recovery. Group therapy shows high effectiveness due to the power of community. Teenagers, meeting with similarly addicted peers, understand that they are not alone in their problem. They learn from each other, share strategies for overcoming difficulties, and receive emotional support. 16-year-old Kirill, after 3 months of group sessions, says, "Before I thought I was the only weakling who couldn't tear myself away from the computer. Now I see that many go through this, and some have already coped. This gives hope. For severe cases, there are specialized rehabilitation centers offering comprehensive recovery programs. In Russia, there are still few such institutions, but their number is growing. Programs usually include complete abstinence from gadgets, intensive psychotherapy, physical activity, creative pursuits, and learning new hobbies. Recovery stories inspire optimism. 17-year-old Maxim spent almost 3 years of his life in online games, abandoning school and losing all his friends. After 6 months of therapy, he returned to his studies, started rock climbing, and even uses his gaming experience in a positive way, helping to develop educational games for elementary school children. In a world where virtual and real spaces are increasingly intertwined, teenagers find themselves at the crossroads of two universes. Finding a balance between digital and physical experiences is a key task of growing up in the 21st century. A healthy digital identity does not imply a complete rejection of online games, but requires a conscious approach to their place in life. We live in an era where technology has become an extension of our consciousness, and completely isolating a teenager from the digital world means depriving them of important social and cognitive skills. Instead of demonizing virtual spaces, we should learn to use their positive potential. Many online games develop strategic thinking, teach teamwork, quick decision-making, and adaptation to changing conditions, skills that are highly demanded in the modern world. Studies show that a moderate involvement in quality gaming projects can improve spatial thinking, concentration, and even multitasking ability. The art of parenting in the digital age is not about establishing strict prohibitions, but about helping a teenager understand their own boundaries. A healthy attitude towards technology is formed through dialogue, joint exploration of digital worlds, and the personal example of adults. A teenager must understand that games are a tool for enriching life, not a replacement for life itself. It is important to help them form a multifaceted identity, where virtual achievements are just one of many components of self-esteem. Experts recommend using a 4-sphere balance model: physical activity, intellectual development, emotional connections, and digital experience. None of these spheres should dominate over the others. A teenager who regularly enjoys sports, live communication, and creativity is much less susceptible to the risk of gaming addiction. The future belongs to those who can freely move between the real and virtual worlds, maintaining critical thinking and an emotional connection with others. Digital literacy is becoming as basic a skill as reading or writing. It includes not only a technical understanding of how devices work, but also the ability to evaluate information, protect personal data, and understand the psychological mechanisms used to attract attention. The main challenge for modern teenagers is to learn to be masters of technology, not its hostages. The path to this lies through mindfulness, self-knowledge, and the support of loved ones.